Hey, Jeff McKinney.
Hey, Jeff.
If Jeffrey M was a wrestling fan, if he preferred WCW or WWE in that time frame.
Everybody knows Jeff McKinney. Back me up. WWF was the best, right? By far the superior product. Yeah. And if you're not down with that, I disagree with you.
Vehemently.
Yes. I vehemently disagree. I have hand gestures to support my position.
Oh shit. All right. You guys all set?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Clear it out. I think I'm getting your cold, Jeff.
Preposterous.
Actually, I have a son vomiting tonight. I got a whole sick house here.
He get into your milk stouts?
Yes, I think.
I'm sorry, that's rough, dude.
He got into your chewing tobacco.
Oh. You're making me throw up. All right, here we go. Oh, am I recording? Hold on, make sure I'm recording. Okay, I'm recording. I'm showing 8:35 as our start time, and we're off. No, we're not. Where'd it go? Here it is. And we're off.
Hey, everybody. It's Lori from Josina Wines, Cabernet Franc and Paso Robles, and I am thrilled to be here on We Like Drinking, where you never drink alone, and there's always smoked whale testicles.
At the sound of the tone, the official We Like Drinking time will be 5 o'clock. Commence consumption.
Today on episode 204 of the We Like Drinking podcast, we'll be discussing reading our wine drinking chakras, listener love, and we should have recorded this on a Monday night in our spandex singlets because we're drinking Nitro. So
watch out for the chair!
Crack open your beer, uncork that wine, and let's get drinking. Pity the fool. All right, guys, let's get to this. I am super excited about this. This was a hard-fought battle to get what we're drinking tonight. But first, let us get started by saying cheers, my podcast drinking friends, and welcome to Happy Hour 204 of the only two-time award-winning topical beer and wine education podcast focusing on fun.
F-U-N.
We put the FU in fun.
We try to.
We put the N in there as well because it's a real cliffhanger otherwise.
Because we're a family program.
Yeah.
We are not that.
Thanks, Lori, for taking the pressure off of me to somehow work in smoked whale testicles on the show.
And a happy belated Cab Franc Day, everybody.
Cab Franc Day. It was an excellent one yesterday. Very busy with all the Cab Franc Day love.
And hey, happy Hanukkah to my people, right?
Happy Hanukkah to all of Jeff's people.
Every single one of them. All one of them.
I was very happy that the olive oil didn't run out this week when I was making dinner.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you're making latkes, you got to use canola. Come on.
Okay.
What's our show about again?
Eating. It's about potato pancakes.
Okay.
Seriously,
I could go for some right now with some of these beers. Holy cow!
Oh, that'd be great. Like, because I mean, really, like a latke is like a high end hash brown. And I'm totally okay saying that. Don't all y'all that are buying the mix and thinking like, oh, you're really making latkes? No, you're not. Like, you may as well just go buy the frozen ones. Like, it's the same thing. Make them with real potatoes. You just gotta like squeeze the water out, let it dry in the fridge, where it's not humid, because then when you mix it with the onions and the eggs and then you let it like settle and then you make those pancakes, they're going to get so beautiful and crisp. And a gummy la.
A gummy la is what he's got to say.
Gummy law.
If you're here in this episode for the first time, consider helping us out by becoming a patron of the show by visiting welikedrinking.com/pledge to help get in on the action and throw us a couple bucks each and every month. That'd be great. All right. So first, a little side note. If my sound is a little off tonight, I've rearranged my recording space, and I think there might be a little bit of extra reverb in my voice tonight. So I apologize for that. I'll try to have it fixed by next week. But let's find out who we're drinking with and what we're drinking. This is a monthly drinking episode. I got to kind of talk about this first. So what we're drinking this month are Nitro beers. I'm holding up one of my Nitros right now. This is the second time, I think, our Patreons help us decide what we're going to drink. It came down to, we give everybody 4 choices. It was a runaway tie of Scottish ales and Nitros. The one time that we had the tie before, I settled it. This time, I went to the Facebook Tavern to let them decide, and that started out. It was, at one point, I think it was like 7-7 tie. Again, I was like, really? This is what we're going to do? But then Nitro took off and won it. So we are drinking the Nitros tonight. So thanks to everybody in the tavern for helping us out there, and to all our patrons for running out to a dead heat in the beers. Jeff, you look confused, or like you really have something.
Just to keep everybody happy, one of my Nitro beers is a Scottish ale.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Is my internet fine? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you locked up there a little bit.
Locked up on the latkes.
You locked it up a little bit.
I mean, that's what happens when you make them right. I apologize. On my end, everybody's a robot, but if I sound fine, that's okay. But if I look confused, that's why. One of the many reasons why I look confused these days.
So tonight, we are joined by our usual panel members. We have Jeff Solomon, our...
Shalom.
We have our commercial brewer, John Ruyek.
Cheers.
And finally, I am your host, Jeff Eccles. And as I mentioned, we're drinking the Nitros tonight. So, John, what are you drinking?
Well, as I mentioned before, I went to Total Wines, and I figured maybe it'll be tough for the other guys to find some stuff because they don't have a Total Wines, or Solomon does. But I found 4. I got this Belhaven Scottish Ale, which is was the other pick was Scottish ales, but I found it on Nitro. I also have this Young's Double Chocolate Stout, so I'll be drinking those 2. I did pick up also a Murphy's Stout and an Old Speckled Hen on Nitro. And Old Speckled Hen is a phenomenal beer. It goes great with fish and chips. They have it on tap here at Two Fools in Albuquerque. It's just a great beer, but this one's, nitroized. So we'll give that a try sometime later in the week.
Yeah, right. You'll drink them all tonight.
Hey, so I wanted to make sure that I had a nice array of Nitros to work with. I was pre-gaming with everybody's favorite Nitro that a lot of folks don't even recognize as a Nitro beer. I was just drinking some Guinness Draft while I was eating dinner today, and I'm finishing that up right now. As we actually get into this Nitro tasting, 2 beers I've never had before. One of them I think y'all have definitely had. I think somebody else is drinking it on the show tonight. So I'm actually going to be starting with the Fort Point Beer Company out of San Francisco. This is their Nitro Summer Porter. But Jeff, it's almost winter. That's right. I bought an older beer just because it looked cool, right? Nitro Porter. So I'm excited about that one. And also for dessert, I will be having the Left Hand Brewing Company Milk Stout Nitro. I was looking at the label, and I got to be honest, I know they're called left hand. And if I took my left hand and I put it down on the label, like, yeah, that's a left hand. But because it's just like a red hand, there's nothing to say. Like, if I held this can in my right hand and I held it up, it would look like it's my right hand. They should just call it red hand, not left hand. It's very ambiguous.
There you go. Oh, I mean, even companies like Left Hand, Jeff will tell them how to do their business better.
I mean, who the fuck are they? No one's ever heard of them.
Awesome. And I as well, I wanted to go with a classic, so I went with the Left Hand Milk Stout Nitro. I'm starting with that one because I'm a tad, I don't want to say worried, but then I'm a little worried about the second one. I have a Breckenridge Brewery Nitro Chocolate Orange Stout.
That sounds delicious.
So there's a lot going on there. We'll see how it pans out.
They didn't have the Wake Up Dead Russian Imperial Stout on Nitro.
They didn't have it, or I would have picked it up.
That is a great beer.
There was a couple other milk stout nitros. Breckenridge has their vanilla porter on Nitro as well, but I've had that one on the show, so I wanted to try something else. So that's why I went with.
Yeah, very good. Cool.
All right. So now, before we get to the festivities, let's increase our brain size with grape hop or pop culture reference. So this is where I give these guys a term, and they try to tell me if it's a wine grape, a beer hop, or a pop culture reference. All right. Super easy, but important one this week, guys. And the term is infamy. So is infamy a wine grape, a beer hop, or a pop culture reference? John Ruyak.
Well, today is December 5th. When we release the show, it will be December 7th. It is the day that will live in infamy. The day Japan attacked Pearl Harbor.
That's right. 77 years, and it's still without question a day that will live in infamy. Jeff, did you want to counter that or say it was something else?
No, well, I was going to say today, Large Marge from Pee-wee's Big Adventure would have been 81. So happy birthday, Large Marge.
Happy birthday.
How am I supposed to make a joke when you're talking about Pearl Harbor?
All right. Well done, John. Let's move on. Let's get into this.
Wait, it was a hops.
So let's get into this, John. Nitro beers. We've got a porter and we got porters and stouts tonight, I believe.
I have a Scottish ale.
We have a Scottish ale. So what do you want to tell us about the nitros before we start asking questions?
Well, do you have questions? I think
okay. I have a very important question because I think today was the first day ever where I looked at a can of Guinness and it said it's Guinness is kind of changing their labeling a little bit, where you kind of see it on the back of wine labels sometimes, where they say things like oh, this is like a sweeter Riesling, or this is like a bold Cabernet. And like Guinness is kind of doing that with their different, like subtle different styles. Like I think on their extra stout, it says like big and bold. And then on just their draft, it says nitrogenated beer on it. And that's the first time I've ever seen that on a Guinness before. The question that I had for you is that, there's a lot of like, I'm going to say new world and new school beers where when they're released, it says nitro really big on the label. But obviously, nitrogenating beers is not a new thing. So how do I identify if a beer is nitrogenated unless it just says nitro really big on the label?
You probably wouldn't. And for the specific reason is if you're buying a nitrogenated beer, it's not in the can with nitrogen dissolved into the beer. The nitrogen is delivered through the widget that pops when you release head pressure over the top of it and forces it up through the beer. So they, for safety reasons, they have to tell you because it's got this pressure canister inside the can. So you're never going to get surprised. Well, I didn't know this was nitro. Well, yeah, they kind of have to tell you, for safety reasons and for product handling reasons as well. I mean, if someone, yeah, nitrogen gas is not going to kill you unless that's all you're breathing for several minutes. But, it's our atmosphere is freaking 79% nitrogen as it is. So, so you should never really be surprised about that. Does that answer your question?
No.
Okay.
Never before have I seen it really big on a label for Guinness. Like they might say something about a widget and hey, pour it this way. And I guess what I'm saying is like, because you're holding up a bunch of like more old school, like European styles. Does it say nitro really big on it somewhere?
No, actually it doesn't, but they have warnings. It says this can contains a pressurized insert. Do not tamper even when empty.
Ah, so look for that shiz.
Yeah.
That makes all the difference. Okay, so what does it mean when I nitrogenated a beer? I don't even know what nitro is.
So here it is the N2 molecule. It is nitrogen in its naturally forming molecule. It doesn't exist as a single atom. It always exists as N2 in the atmosphere. A lot of gases are like that, with the exception of the noble gases, helium, xenon, neon, all those ones that you light signs with and fill balloons with. So gases that naturally occur in abundance in the atmosphere are generally dual atom molecules. Oxygen the same way, O2. So nitrogen is not a naturally occurring product of the brewing process. Let's do some chemistry. Natural carbonation occurs in beer from the fermentation process. So when yeast eats
sugar,
it throws up ethanol and it farts carbon dioxide. Okay, so carbon dioxide is basically yeast farts. Anyway, when Jeff, you've homebrewed, right? You dosed your bottles with some sugar for the yeast to eat because most of that CO2 escapes the beer and goes out through your bubbler, your airlock, what have you. Some brewers will cap the vessel in order to retain natural carbonation, even for kegged beer. And the last remaining, you get it pretty close to the end of fermentation before you do that, or you explode your vessels. But so what happens is when you put that sugar in, and the yeast eats it and creates that carbon dioxide, even at the very end, there's still little bits of yeast floating around your beer, even though it looks clear. It'll eat that sugar or whatever's left from the brewing sugars and go into the top underneath the cap, and it creates pressure there. That pressure builds, and then it assimilates back. And a lot of people say it dissolves. That's not true. Dissolving means atoms dissociate and exist in between the molecules of water. What it does is it creates carbonic acid. It actually binds with water to create an entirely new molecule, which occurs naturally even in the ocean with mixing with air, waves, but in very low concentrations. Carbonic acid is extremely unstable, and the amount of carbonation that's in the beer requires pressure for it to be that way and to carbonate the beer, so to say. It's not really now it's carbonic acid, and that's another preservative of beer. Along with hops, we've now lowered the pH and made it very difficult for bad germs to live in the beer, right? That's why you don't get foodborne illnesses from beer, because the pH is just so low that they can't live in it. So that is also, what happens when you open your beer and you drink it, that carbonic acid breaks down and it's an acid. So, when we drink acidic wines, it's very refreshing, right? It clears your palate. So that's part of what clears your palate. And then the carbonic acid breaks apart and you feel the bubbles in your mouth or you see them in your glass. So you get that more refreshing mouthfeel to the beer. So how does that relate to nitrogenated beers? So if I think a lot of people have had nitrogenated beers before, particularly most people have had a Guinness stout that's been poured on draft or they've broken open a widget and it's a very smooth taste. It doesn't it doesn't have that effervescent feeling to it. You get some tingling in there, and that's because the widget they put in there isn't pure nitrogen, it's beer gas. It's 70% nitrogen and 30% CO2. So when you pop it up, it disperses all that nitrogen, creates that cascading effect, but there's that little bit of CO2 in there that also carbonates the beer. And that's also why they tell you to keep it super cold. And on the can, it'll say refrigerate for at least 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
If you just left it room temperature, none of that, or very little of that CO2 from the widget would dissolve into the beer and give you any kind of carbonating or refreshing feeling to the beer. Now, there is some residual carbonic acid in beer before it's carbonated. It's generally about half of, we've talked about this before, volumes. The amount of, on a normal can, it's, if you took all the CO2 out of it, it would fill 2.5 of those cans of beer. Well, in beer before it's carbonated, it's about half a volume. So about 1/5 of the level you would normally want in the beer when you drink it. And nitrogen doesn't naturally dissolve in water, and beer is 96% water, right? So that's the cascading effect. You see that nitrogen just escaping into the foam, and then that little bit of CO2 that was in that widget gives you a little bit of the carbonation bite that you expect in a beer. Makes sense so far?
So a nitro beer is going to be creamier, you're saying?
It is. But there's other aspects to this. And folks, you're listening, check out the notes. I attached a story about just say no to nitro beer. While it works in dark beers, nitrogen completely destroys hop flavor. Almost completely wipes it out. So if you see a nitro IPA, that's just kind of like saying fuck you to the brewer. I don't care how many hops you put in it. You're not going to taste it because we want to put this on nitro.
I think I have seen a nitro IPA before.
Well,
so.
yeah, Guinness makes one.
Guinness makes one. I think Sam Adams makes one, right?
Yeah, it's a waste of hops, really, is what it is. So the most successful nitrogenated beers, and you'll see, oh, it's carbonated with nitrogen. Like, well, duh, no, it's nitrogenated, as Solomon says. It's beer gassed. Anyway, yeah, so nitrogen just does wonders for dark or maltier styles. So that's what if you're not in it for the hops, you're in it for the mouthfeel of the malts. It is a way to drive maltier flavors.
And you're saying typically this beer gas, it's like a 70-30 blend of nitrogen to carbon dioxide?
Yes. Now, some brewers will carbonate their beer, but they'll drive the beer through their system with beer gas. So they'll serve it with beer gas, even though they've carbonated it with a more traditional carbonation method. Now, the way that they get it into the tap for Guinness is they actually drive the beer through a restrictor plate. So you see that big long thing where they pour Guinness out of. Yep. Inside of that is it's a restrictor plate. It's a perforated disc where the beer goes through, and they mix the nitrogen in at that
screen grab. Get a screen grab.
I'm filling donuts.
Okay, that was going to be one of my questions: is how that works in when you're seeing it on tap in a bar or something like that.
Right. So,
and is that just for Guinness, or is that for any nitro that you see?
If you have a nitro served beer, yes, that beer in that keg is essentially flat, and they're nitrogenating it at the tap.
Okay.
And you said nitrogen makes up 79% of our atmosphere?
Well, 78, 70.
I'm going to have to mute Jeff Solomon, I think.
So
I know.
I guess what
I'm to the science teacher. Jeez.
No, I guess what I'm wondering is like, how come when I'm just walking around like normally day to day, how come the air doesn't taste creamy?
Hashtag smooth.
Well, I guess it's your perception. Maybe, you live in California. I'm sure you could take a number of things that would make the atmosphere smell or taste as anything as you'd like.
Well, I'm just wondering, so with global warming, am I going to feel zippier over time, or?
I'll tell you what, pure CO2 has a very distinct and sharp smell. And if occasionally I'll make the mistake, I'll be kegging the beer and when the CO2 from counterbalancing the keg comes out and it goes into the bucket, and CO2 is heavier than air. It pretty much stays in the bucket for a long time. And I'll like, I wonder what the beer smells like. I go, ooh, it'll burn your nose. Pure CO2 hurts to breathe. It really does hurt to breathe. So if you're in a situation where you may be in an environment, I think I've talked about this before, where you get a really sharp smell in your nose, there's a high CO2 concentration. You need to get out.
Yeah.
So John, is there a difference in pairing options when I have something on a nitro pour? So I know we're talking, it's a lot of porters, it's a lot of stouts. And so there's types of foods I would pair with those. Is anything going to change when I'm switching to a nitro pour?
I think so. I think you want to have more, I think you want to have some bolder, sharper flavors with the food as opposed to the beer. And I made the mistake of being hungry while we started the podcast, and I brought a little wedge of sharp cheddar cheese in here. I ate it all.
So let me clarify what you're saying there. So you're saying, I'm not sure what you said there. So you're saying if you're going with a nitro beer as opposed to a carbonated beer, you may want to make the food a little bit more crisp or acidic?
Yes, acidic. I would say that, yes. So earlier I said that I really enjoy Old Speckled Hen with fish and chips. That's a fried food, but Old Speckled Hen it's kind of an English bitter. So I don't think the nitro Old Speckled Hen would work with fish and chips at all. Now, the reason Guinness may work with fish and chips is because Guinness actually doses their product with a little bit of soured beer. So there's a little bit of a bite to Guinness that maybe you're not going to get with some other beers. So Guinness is pretty acidic as it is. So but try stuff out. But I would say you want some drier, sharper, more acidic type of flavors to go with these types of foods.
Yeah. So I guess kind of what you're saying is we will say if you're having a creamy dish, serve a higher acid wine to help cut through that acidity. And you're kind of saying the reverse here, since you have such a creamy drink, have a more acidic food to almost help cut through the beer.
Yeah, I would say that. I have a sneaking suspicion that this Belhaven Scottish non-nitro would go great with chili.
All right.
As long as the chili isn't too fatty, you drained your meat really well.
Could I do a more like rich dessert with like a nice creamy nitro stout? Like, could that work? Like, why am I thinking something like, ice cream or like chocolate mousse would go with that. And why am I wrong?
You may not be. Sometimes, when you get to the dessert part of the menu, you just want richness, right? It's really what you're trying to do. You're trying to fill the empty parts of your stomach, so to speak, as opposed to creating a gastronomical.
So it's like it will carry my poor choices like into the decadent realm. But if you want like a more balanced pairing, the way to go is like sharper, more acidic foods.
Yeah,
to pair.
so you might
Gotcha.
you might do a like a fruit tart with, if you're doing, well, think about a cherry tart with a double chocolate stout. I mean,
Dang.
Yeah, man.
I feel you, dog. I feel you.
All right, so
I'd like to be feeling what's in this can. You know,
I'm doing it. I'm kind of surprised you didn't pick up a Merlin Nitro there, Solomon.
It wasn't at the shop I stopped at.
Whoa!
Oh, party foul.
Oh, this is a disaster.
That one went completely over and onto my new phone.
What do you say when a speckled hen gets dumped all over the floor? Party foul. Get it? Foul. Okay.
That's the Scottish ale anyway. Okay, so our viewer can't see it, but there is, and this is something that really, it's weird. There's definitely a way to pour a nitro beer, and I tried to do a little video ahead of time, but it didn't work. Jeff Solomon's going to do it right now, I think.
I'm going to demonstrate right now, right over the microphone and keyboard. It's going to be awesome. I'll open this up first. This is the Fort Point Beer Company out of San Francisco. This is their Nitro Summer Porter, and I'm going to do a shake. That's right, Foo. John's grabbing a towel for me. I'm going to open this bad boy up, and I'm just going to pour this straight upside down.
More.
Ah! Almost. And I'm going to let it settle for a little bit, but they're saying pour it straight upside down. It'll settle out. It's cascading. It looks wonderful. I've got about a quarter of the beer left. A quarter of my 12-ouncer. We'll get back in there soon.
So if you're pouring one of these, first thing is I would not go with a regular pint. I have an imperial pint glass here. So I'm looking at the 20-ouncer as opposed to the 16-ouncer. Not that it'll fill it up, but you may have, like Jeff Solomon or John React both, a little excitement when you're opening and pouring it.
I just love it. Like, you see, I now have the head like rounding over the top of the lip here. I love that.
So this is, since it won't pour like a carbonated beer, you can pour this one aggressively. The left-hand milk stout nitro, you just pour it straight upside down. John let go of his. He just put it in his cup and tried to stop beer from getting on his new phone. So you just, as they say, pour hard with this one, and then you let that cascading action take over. Now, John.
Yes.
I believe the proper format is to let the cascade finish before you start drinking the beer. Is that correct?
Yes.
If so, why?
Because you consume things with all five senses, right? You want the visual. The visual is, we eat with our eyes, right? So I think it's part of the anticipation. It's prepare the beer is still preparing itself for you.
Here it is. It's preparing itself for you.
Nice. And I do just want to say, like, this excuse me, this beautiful dark and yummy summer porter, I poured it into my Altamont Beer Works in the San Francisco Giants font glass right here. Like, what a sweet gift. And I really want to thank Brad and Tony from Swankville for swanking this out. Like, with the dark beer behind, like, it's just bold. This looks awesome.
Like,
give me shelter from that beer.
Let me see what's the head look like on yours, John. I'm shocked at how much head Jeff has on his.
Yeah, and this is a 22-ounce can, and this is a normal pint for me. I don't have an imperial pint here at home.
And also
I do, but it's Sharon's Guinness glass from Ireland. If I took it out of the cupboard, she'd shoot me.
And also what, like, if you don't watch this live at welikedrinking.com/show or on our YouTube channel, just search for We Like Drinking. I'm holding up this glass right now. Do y'all notice mine bevels in like right at the top?
Yeah.
So that also works wonders in terms of the head retention on this one.
That's just it's all, and I know this is a podcast, so but it's a lot of head for a nitro, if in my opinion. But all right,
Because
so
I poured it
I think
so
a good,
hard.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think the proper ending point I think is pretty good on mine. I mean, it's 3/4 of an inch.
Yep, agreed.
You know,
And that
more than a finger, but less than 2.
like
and mine's like an inch and a half.
I poured mine like 30 minutes ago, and the head really hasn't left. It'll stick there the whole time. So I'm gonna start. So as I said, I'm drinking the Left Hand Milk Stout Nitro. It is, and I will say, it is a pretty sweet residual sugar beer that I'm drinking, but it's got those coffee and chocolate notes. Like I mean, really, it's stout. So it smells like a stout, and really the difference is on the palate. And it's just like that hashtag hella smooth, Jeff Solomon, velvety smooth. It's just
Noise.
it just lingers on the palate. It's creamy. John has white head all over his beard.
How can you tell?
It's just a. If you haven't had a nitro before, which I'm sure most of our listeners have, but if you haven't, you really need to go pick one up because it's something that you have to experience. But this is just an excellent nitro. I just love this beer. So, Jeff Solomon. Oh, go ahead, Jen.
Now, I wanted to talk a little bit more about beer chemistry. So what happens is in higher residual sugar beers, you can overcarbonate them a little bit and not get that. Remember, we talked about carbonic bite. So we way back, if you listen to our show about porters, you said, why do porters always taste a little bit metallic, right?
Yep.
And that's because a lot of people overcarbonate porters. But because a porter can be somewhat dry, they're sweeter than stouts, but drier than some other heavier beers, particularly your milk stout. So you can two things. There's chemistry involved in that. There's some interaction between carbonic acid and residual sugars, where the residual sugars will kind of fight against their carbonic acid and not allow the beer to raise a decent head. So there's some chemistry there, but there's also some taste chemistry, some physical chemistry or physiological chemistry, where you're balancing the sharpness of the carbonic acid carbonation with the residual sugar of the beer. So when you're doing a nitro beer, it's not having that interplay, and you're getting much more malt presence in that. And if you really take the time to let the nitrogenation settle to the top and leave, what you're really tasting behind is flat beer, what beer tastes like before it's carbonated. So, I taste this all the time, so it's not a problem for me. But like, oh, that's a flat Scottish ale because mine's pretty flat now. I just have this head on the top of it, right? So, there could be some getting used to that. So, I mean, unless you were like trolling a party on Sunday morning at a fraternity and just running around and drinking flat old PBRs, you might not be. You might be surprised at what flat beer tastes like. Okay, Solomon, off you go.
So, anyways, I mean, this was apparently a nitro porter meant for the summertime. This is the Fort Point Nitro Summer Porter. It is 4.4% alcohol out of San Francisco, California. You'll see, for those watching, the head has died down a little bit, but I still got a good like third of an inch on there. Beautiful dark color. And man, I love porters. And I'm so glad we did that porter, the World Porter Day thing, because I really think we have changed the world with that one. Now, on the nose.
we have changed the world. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah, I don't believe this summer porter on Nitro existed before them. So here's what's neat. There's like a really nice, slightly tart and zesty front to this porter, which is I think where they get that like summertime idea from. And then what's happening is like the nitrogen is carrying all of those wonderful like coffee and chocolate flavors into this round and lingering and creamy and hashtag smooth finish. It's kind of like how John was saying, like you would want to pair a nitrogenated beer with like a more of a sharper food. I think what's nice about this summertime porter is that it's kind of tart to begin with. And so you're getting this juxtaposition of flavors in your mouth already, so you could eat anything with this. Anything. Before we get into John's beer, though, I need to double back because we do have a listener question. Dimitri, thank you for being so patient. You're stuck in an airport anyways, so it's not like you're going anywhere. He was wondering, doubling back to the milk stout. You know, it's a milk stout because they add lactose to it. That's what gives it that milky, creamy type of flavors, the lactose sugar. Yes. Is that where all that flavor is coming from? Are there other things that come along with adding lactose to a beer? And also, he just really wanted to thank John for the chemistry lesson. And not like being funny, but like thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. So, you're the lactose question. I'm somewhat intolerant to those kinds of questions.
And I'm sorry. And he was also asking if somebody is lactose intolerant, they should be avoiding those beers, correct?
They probably should to some
or take some. What's the is it called Lactaid?
Lactaid,
some of that.
Yeah. Lactose is basically, it's pretty common in those milkshake beers. They put sometimes they put them in those New England IPAs. It's supposed to add kind of that creamy milk kind of fermented milk like yogurt, but not to that same degree, kind of a sour cream without the, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
No.
Which beer are you drinking? The old speckled Boddingtons? What is?
Hey, real quick, Dimitri, congratulations on being the regular season champion of the We Like Drinking Fantasy Football League.
That wins you nothing, bro. Let's see you take it all the way to the end.
All right, John, go ahead.
It's all luck from here. It was all luck from the beginning, obviously.
So, I have the Scottish ale, and I think some of the sharpness you get is actually, when you're drinking through the head, you're getting a little bit of that, the sharpness from what the nitrogenation does by pulling some malts and proteins to the top of the glass, because that's really what it is. Foam is protein. And some really long sugar molecules that don't ferment is what makes up foam. So anyway, look at the color on this. I mean, gee whiz, that's quite the color. That's a Scottish ale all the way, right?
Yeah.
As far as the taste is just, it's pretty classic. So what you get out of this is coffee and toffee and caramel as I spray foam off of my mustache while I'm describing this beer. And dare I say, I'm getting a little bit of corn in this, but not in a bad way, not in a old Moosehead Canadian lager or Mexican lager type of way. It just
I don't know. That may have
Maybe it's a little reminiscent. No, maybe it's a little reminiscent of bourbon. Is what I'm actually trying to say. So yeah, I'm kind of digging this.
Awesome.
You're a regular Pappy Van Winkle.
There you go. Do I have to sleep 20 years in order to get a free bottle of that?
No, that's Rip Vandersludge.
All right. Let's see. Anything else on the Nitro beers, John?
Yeah, it's just it's not an easy thing to pull off. Left Hand is pretty famous for doing Nitro beers. If you want a world-class beer, try to find that milk stout and the Wake Up Dead and Russian Imperial on Nitro is
just so good.
Yeah, it's just
really wish I could have found it. That's like one of my favorite beers.
Well, I think we went to Old Chicago one time after a hockey game. I think I had 2 of those, and I think I had to call Sharon to come get me.
Here's what I know. What I know is when I open my own brewery, it's going to be called Right Hand. It's going to have the exact same logo.
It's actually named for a canyon that they're in. It's Left Hand Canyon.
Yeah, mine's named for my right hand. And that's why they can't. You're not going to win a lawsuit.
And that's why you go with the Imperial pint glass when you pour this one. That one, I poured the next one. It is like right to the rim of the.
There you go. So they're hard to pull off. It's expensive, to put that widget in there, or the bullet that goes in the bottles if you have a bottle of Nitro. So there you go.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, John. That was probably the most technical tasting we've ever done, or tasted, not the tasting, but the technical information that we've had. So that was really cool. Thank you for
Yeah, you're welcome. I got to geek out a little bit.
I want to thank you. Thank you.
That does not sound like the ZZ Top version.
It's Booze News. We discuss interesting, noteworthy, or sometimes some pretty idiotic stuff. This week, this is a doozy this week. And listeners, drinking episodes, you know what happens with our drinking episodes? They go long. And this week, it is no different. So this is a fun one. So our article this week comes from Forbes magazine, and it details the 6th release of the insight into the wine buying market of the U.S. So it's an international team of analysts, consultants, and communication experts, and it's known as the Wine Intelligence. Wine Intelligence. And they produce this report, which can help retailers identify and market wines to these groups. So the report breaks the U.S. wine drinking market into 6 categories. Now, those categories are, and I'll give you a little bit of a description as well as the name. So there is the engaged explorers. Now, those make up 10% of the population, and they are generally, so I want you guys to listen to this, because I'm going to ask you what kind of what segment you fall into. So the engaged explorers, 10% of the market, they are generally younger. Most often, they're the buyers who spend the most on high-priced wine, and as their name indicates, these drinkers buy from all over the world. So they are trying wines from all different regions of the world. Next, we have the premium brand Suburbans.
What kind of mileage do those premium brand Suburbans get?
So they make up 19% of the market. They are a middle to older age group who spend less on a bottle of wine than most others, and they tend to stick to wines they know. Surprisingly, though, of all 6 segments, this group generally knows more about wine than any of the other groups. Next, we have our contented treaters. I don't even know what to guess with that one, but the contented treaters, 17% of the population, they're the affluent, middle to older in age, tend to spend more on wine but drink less frequently, and their wine selection, it's very broad. So they are another one that tends to go all over the map. Then we get to the social newbies. Hashtag millennials. 14% of the population. Now, they average drinking wine about 2 times per week, but they don't have a lot of wine knowledge, so they tend to go based on recommendations. So they can be very flighty or all over the map in what they gravitate towards. Next, we have the senior bargain hunters. This is the largest market. It makes up 26% of the population. They are the oldest and the least frequent wine buying group. They know a lot about wine, but they also know what they like, and value is a top priority to them. And then we have, this may honestly be my favorite one, the kitchen casuals. They make up 14% of the market. They are also an older market. They don't drink much wine, but when they do, it's very much a drink what they like kind of thing. They have their brands, they stick to them, and they don't really go outside of that. So those are the 6. Now, if I'm looking at it, I would probably put myself in the contented treaters.
Hey,
so
what was the percentage on the contented treaters, by the way?
26%?
17%.
Okay.
The senior bargain hunters are 26%. So 26% are digging through the bins looking for them. But the contented treaters, so I probably spend a little bit more on wine. I probably drink less frequently than a lot of people, and I do a wide range of different wines. So I've gone with John a lot tonight. So Jeff,
yeah, I would probably put myself in the contented treater thing because, like, I like my wine collection, and I do buy more expensive wines when I can. And honestly, I think this podcast kind of made it so I drink beer a whole lot more frequently. I did also want to let you know that Dimitri would put himself in the engaged explorer demographic. And I would say if I were not a contented treater, I might say I'm an engaged explorer. I wonder, though, the premium suburban, is that the person that's like, I drink Silver Oak, even years only? Is that the premium suburban?
I don't think so, because they tend to spend less on wine.
Yeah.
So,
they talked about like being very like name brand oriented. I'm just wondering, like, because there's that category, right? It's the person that goes to a lot of like business lunches, and it's like the same brands. It's Silver Oak, it's Camus, it's what the fuck, that other thing, Opus One.
Yeah.
Who's that person?
I think, man, I would probably put them possibly in the contented treaters. And the premium brand one kind of confused me a little bit because they spend less, but they know more about it than other groups. I agree with you. Contented treaters, engaged explorer. That was kind of the 2 I was waffling between. Although I'm not younger, so that was my expulsion of the engaged explorers.
Can I guess on who Mr. 5 Colognes Ruyak is gonna be?
Yeah. Let's do that. So, John, what do you think John's gonna fall into?
He's a social newbie.
So he is so a social
noob.
You think I'm a social noob? I think I'm more of an engaged explorer.
Yeah,
the show has made me an engaged explorer.
I was gonna say, I think this show has made you engaged explorer. You're younger because of hanging out with us. You spend more on wine, and you're drinking it from all over the world, man.
There you go.
Hells yes.
So we'd love to hear from you guys, from you listeners, what you think. Dimitri, he sees himself as an engaged explorer. I would agree with that. I would put Dimitri in that category.
I think I'd put. I mean, I don't want to like stereotype our listeners. I feel like you're all kind of those engaged explorers right now.
I don't think we have a lot of the senior bargain hunters or kitchen casuals.
Well, except for Stub is kind of like that, except he just turned 30. That's the problem.
Kitchen casuals, they're the ones that drink Sutter Home while they're cooking pasta, right?
Right. Yep. They drink what they like. Fuckers. Okay.
You know what was really cool though? When I opened, I'm leafing through or scrolling through the article, when as you're talking about it, and when I touched the link, some dude jumped off a mountain and grew wings and told me I needed to drink Macallan Scotch.
It does, man.
Well, shit. If I had $1.2 million, I'd buy a bottle of 60-year-old Macallan Scotch too. But I don't have $1.2 million. But that's another story for another time.
If you invented the pet rock, you'd have $1 million.
If I had a toy review YouTube channel, I'd have $22 million.
So, John, did you? Was that you that I heard Kashuk open another can?
Yeah, I Kashooked open the double chocolate stout from Young's.
How is it?
I haven't tasted it yet, so I think I'll do that right now.
Let's do it. Jeff, are you on to your second, or are you still on first?
Well, I mean, if you're making me pound the summer porter, I will. I'm really enjoying it, but I do want to get to this milk stout nitro. I will say that summer porter, it's in a 12-ounce can. It came in a 6-pack. There's no widget in here. Like, it was just a straight up Canny Cannerson.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah. And they advised that I started shaking it. Jeff Eccles started freaking out. They told you, like, yeah, shake it and then pour it straight upside down.
Interesting. That's interesting. My double, how do I say this? Without sounding, I mean, they're not my recipes, but we just released our double chocolate stout at Lizard Tail, and it's better than this.
Nice. Is it on Nitro?
It is not, but I undercarbonate it to let the malts come through a little bit more. I don't say undercarbonate, but carbonated less than our pale ales and ambers and stuff.
I suppose if you wanted to try something on Nitro, what you could do is hold the beer in your mouth and then just go like this. Right?
Yeah, you could do that.
Okay.
So I got into this Nitro chocolate orange stout. I'm pretty disappointed in this one, honestly.
Yeah, I'm not. This one's too chocolatey. It tastes like they put Hershey's syrup in it.
There's just not a lot of flavor to this one. I get a little bit of orange at the very tail end, but other than that,
I think I've had that one. They've made that before.
Because as soon as you say chocolate orange, and I start thinking about the chocolate orange candy that I love, that you break and you peel out the wedges, I love that thing so much.
Much. I always get one in my stocking at Christmas. I love it.
You see the image?
I do see that. Yes,
just like that. So I kind of get a little bit of the orange. It's very, I was worried it might be super powerful, but it's really not.
Orange is a tough flavor to get into beer. There is
more hard, Jeff Solomon.
Not to digress too much, but in Costa Rica, I made a beer with nugget and centennial hops, and that's a pretty famous combination for putting orangey flavors into a beer, just from a hop combination standpoint. But I also dumped in a bunch of orange zest. I'd made 2 batches. One had orange zest in it, and one didn't. And the one with orange zest didn't taste any more orangey than one that I didn't put in it. That was just from hops. So orange is a tough flavor for beer.
It's a tough flavor to rhyme with too.
Yeah.
With that, we have something new not new this week, but we have a podcast review. So let's get to. Yeah, sure, we'll use that. Apple Pie review. Jeff Solomon, do you want to read it this week?
Oh, I don't have it in front of me right now.
Oh, you don't have the show notes?
I can read
No,
it.
I mean, I have the show notes. I didn't, is that, I got it. Okay. This one is entitled Awesome Podcast. 5 stars by Laura Loves Wine. And we love you, Laura. You make my commute a little less unbearable. Thanks for that! Exclamation point. Laura, thank you.
We are glad to be of service to you, Laura. We hope we make your Fridays a little bit better.
You know, honestly, Laura, I love the name Laura because that's my sister's name. Laura Lynn Solomon Youngblood.
Hi, Laura.
Hey, Laura Lynn Solomon Youngblood. Running with curls.
All right. So thank you for that, Laura. Laura, if you want to reach out to me at jeff@welikeDrinking.com, I will be sure to get you some fun swag if you want to. God, do we really have to? All right.
Well, wait a minute. Wait, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No. Proceed.
No, hold up. If you want to, I did want to throw this out. Dimitri did have another question.
Oh, okay.
Is it really expensive for a bar to add a nitro tap? And is it fine to nitro any dark malty beer, or does it need to be made to be nitrogenated?
No, it doesn't. Good question, Dimitri. It's gotten a lot less expensive to put nitro taps in places. They've, demand lowers, or widespread distribution lowers costs, right? So yeah, a lot of places have that, and but we don't do it at Lizard Tail because, as I mentioned before, nitrogen kills the taste of beer or taste of hops, so we don't do it. But for Left Hand Brewing and most places, no, you don't need to change the recipe at all. In fact, they release all of their nitro beers as a non-nitro version as well. And they do use the exact same recipe for both releases. And the two taste different due to the delivery of the beer.
Awesome. I've never had a milk stout. I know I've seen it all the time, but I've never picked one up. I'm going to have to do that.
Yeah. Lots of milk stouts out there. So, Eccles.
Yes, sir.
Who's doing the fantasy football minute?
Yeah,
the guy who does this, didn't he come in like 14th place or something?
He didn't even get a bye in consolation.
Oh, that's cold. Are you gonna give me my intro music so we can get the hell out of here?
Bum, bum, bum. Jeff sucks.
Congratulations. This is what I was looking forward to. It's kind of like I feel like sometimes my role on this show, especially when it comes to fantasy football, is, we were talking about wrestling before the show. Like, I want to be the heel. I need to be the target that you hate, like that everybody's fight against. Like, how awesome was that when I went wire to wire last year and I destroyed that league and I talked shit the entire time because I knew I was better than everybody. And you know what that did? That made everybody want to get better. And that's what happened to this league this year. Hats off to everybody who made the GD playoffs this year, even though I scored more points than everybody in the league, except for the guy that finished in very first place at the end of the regular season. I shall not mention that person's name, even though he's watching live right now. But congrats to everybody. I finished in 10th place, which means I am in the consolation round against Brad from Swankville, which is funny because wasn't his team supposed to be good at the beginning of the year? I don't know what the hell happened to him. Anyways, what I am looking forward to is the 2 first-round matchups in the playoffs. We've got our own smoked whale testicles, John Ruyak. Thank you. Going up against the hype machine, the name changer, the innovator, Ryan Hannigan from Focus on the Glitter Beer. They're going up against each other. That is expected to be a pretty close matchup. So we're all looking forward to seeing that. The winner of that match, unfortunately, is going to have to play Dimitri in the airport dome next week under the lights. That's going to be intense. But then also you've got Maine Jeff Eccles going up against Smokin' Bowls. He's favored to win by 14 points, but we know that means nothing in this version of the NFL. Any team can throw up 50 points in any given week. Like it's going to be fun to watch. The winner of that goes up against, and I don't know how Jeremy from Under the Bridge not only made the playoffs, but he actually earned himself a bye. Congratulations, brother. Because you get to rest nice and easy and wait for these fools to pick each themselves off. This is going to be really fun to watch. And I'm really happy for all y'all. Do better next year, though. How about this? Win a championship and score more points than me in the same season. Let's see if you can do that. That's what I'm looking for.
Defense wins championships.
That's right, man.
I don't,
because that's how it works. You selectively draft a defense that literally goes up against other people's teams. You know this is a fake sport, right, John?
I do.
I could say that I don't have much of a chance of making it to next week, but it'll be fun to watch. Everybody go at it. So my only goal is to last longer than Jeff Solomon. That's really all that is.
Well, that's okay. If I win the consolation bracket and you lose this week, I win. I'm the winner and you're the loser.
I think you'll win because I really don't think I have much of a chance this week.
I mean, you're favored to win. So
he hasn't submitted his lineup because he has a player out. That's why
he lost James Conner.
Yeah.
Oh, what's he gonna do? Who's he gonna start?
Doesn't have much to back it up, but
he's gonna throw in Doug Martin. I think you're good. Starting that Washington D. Hey, good job. How'd you get in the playoffs, dude?
Well, if we've bored everybody to death with fantasy football, except for the 16 of us that are in the league, it must be
last call.
Last call. Time to clean house and lock the doors. You know what we do here. This is the drill. Follows, reviews, and support. So if you are interested in follow us on the social medias, it's super easy. Just search for We Like Drinking on Instagram and Facebook, or We Like Drinking 1 on the Twitter sphere. And be sure to join us in the Tavern, the Facebook private group. We Like Drinking.
Oh, the Tavern. Caviar. Folks, you gotta join the Tavern just to read the Caviar conversation. That was cracking up.
I'm eating potato chips right now.
I gotta say, two things from this last week on the Tavern. I think people are kind of getting the gist of it, and so there's a lot more smartassery starting
finally,
which is fun to see. But
everybody stop playing nice. Now we know each other. We can just start digging in.
That's right. But then last weekend, I was really busy. I wasn't near my phone. We were doing a lot of family stuff, and I didn't post the roll call, and like everybody flipped out, and there was like 2 or 3 sections or different running threads of roll call, because I can just see people on Friday night just waiting with their pictures to say for the roll call. So be sure to check that out.
I just got this silver oak and there's no one to share it with.
Sorry. Oh, excellent. So John Ruyak.
Yes.
If people have an opinion about our show, besides yelling at us on email because they don't like what we say, where else can they go to leave us a bit of a 5-star review?
Well, they could probably hack into the TV monitor system at the airport and leave a 5-star review there, Dimitri. That would be fun. Or you might just go to Apple iTunes or Apple Podcasts and leave that review there.
Please do. And if it gives you a problem with coming up with a name, just keep trying, or do middle finger apple. I like that one. So Jeff Solomon, if they've left us a review, if they followed us on the socials, they're active in the tavern, and they just need to do more. How can they become an Uber listener?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, it seemed like there was a little bit of controversy this week. Some people were very upset that what was it? Scottish ales did not make the cut for the tasting episode this week. And everybody in the tavern that's complaining about that, do better. Do better.
How can
I tasted a Scottish ale on the
better
podcast today
by downloading the Patreon app, get that on your phone, search for We Like Drinking, and donate $1 a month? You could have been the deciding vote, and you basically would have produced this show. We would have drank whatever you wanted to, but I'm just in the tavern freeloading. Do better. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
You listened all the way to this point, and you're not donating $1 a month? Do better.
Interesting take. We'll see how insulting the listeners does.
That's weliketrinking.com/pledge.
F you, Solomon. I'm going to donate $5.
If you go 7, you get a free t-shirt. That's all I'm saying.
This is true.
All right. So that was a lot to take in. If you're seething with anger at being called out by Jeff Solomon, then we're here to really help drive it home with a bit we like to call Wait, who subscribed? Where I give these guys a quote from someone fictional or non-fictional, and they try to tell me what movie it's from. All right, here we go this week. Let me get to it. Here it is. Well, let me just quote the late, great Colonel Sanders, who said, "I'm too drunk to taste this chicken." All right, Audrey.
Oh my gosh. Okay. What's the movie with Mickey Rourke and he's the wrestler?
The wrestler. Okay, that's one option. Jeff Solomon.
I have no idea. That was just like the greatest thing ever. Here's what I do know. Kevin Smith did not write that because that was funny. Dimitri says it's from Talladega Nights.
At least Dimitri's here. Oh, that was great. Yes, Dimitri, you are right. It is Talladega Nights, the Ballad of Ricky Bobby. Classic movie. You should go watch
it. Was close. I was thinking it was Walk Hard by The Legend of Dewey Cox.
So how did that tie into Nitro beers?
You know, I could not for the life of me. Because it's racing, dude. Racing cars.
Okay.
Nitrous oxide.
Nitrous boost, man. Don't you know everybody has a nitrous tank?
You could have gone in 60 seconds.
I could have, but then I saw Ricky Bobby, and I was like,
there's nitrous oxide in here?
Yeah. That's
why I was laughing.
That's
okay.
Why we're all pumped up right now. All right, moving on. You can find the show notes for this episode with all the links to the stories or mentions we have at welikedrinking.com/episode. Or if you're on your phone, swipe right. All right. That was a fun one. I like the giggles at the end. But it's the time where I get to say, okay, panel, let's take one last trip around this table and get some final thoughts before we shut off the lights. John Rujek.
Okay, this is going to take a second. I've got to take this beer and pour it into this glass. And I'm doing this for a reason.
Okay.
Folks, this is a time of year, usually around, New Year's, people will toast people that they lost in their lives. But I learned some sad news today, and I drank out of this glass before. on the show. And this mug, was given to me by a really nice gentleman in Costa Rica, Carlos Padilla. He was a home brewer, and I'm saying his name in the past tense. He passed away 2 days ago. He and I became good friends when I was there. Carlos, I'm not drinking double IPAs tonight. I'm drinking nitro beers. But until we meet again, after all of our great rewards, cheers. Vaya con Dios, Carlos. I miss you.
Cheers, Carlos.
Cheers.
Jeff Solomon.
Oh, I gotta follow up that. Okay, stop the music.
Shit.
Hanukkah, come light the menorah. Let's have a party, we'll all dance the hora. Gather around the table, I'll give you a treat. A dreidel. Did somebody say dreidel? Remix. Beep, 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 beep. Dreidel, dreidel, dreidel. I made you out of clay. When you're dry and ready, a dreidel I will play. Everybody, dreidel, dreidel, dreidel. I made you out of clay. Okay, bring it back.
Like, honestly, the best part of this episode is going to be all the freaking hashtags I'm going to come up with.
You know what? So, the best thing about the Hanukkah channel on Sirius XM radio is they basically only have 2 songs that they play there. But every once in a while, you get like some good ones. There was this one. It went, Mama's little booby loves latkes. Mama's little booby loves them latke cakes. That one was good.
With that, I'll say thanks again for joining us at the We Like Drinking podcast.
Where you'll never drink alone.
The fuck?
Hey, John.
Awesome.
Honestly, hey, I'm so sorry about your friend. That's awful, man.
I yeah, I learned about it today on Facebook. I mean, how else would I know?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, after I left Costa Rica, he, messaged me a couple times, tagged me a couple times in posts and stuff, and just kind of it became less and less over time, and I had no idea his health was failing. So anyway, super nice man. He loved my double IPA. He would come all the way from San Jose and spend a couple of days and just drink double IPAs all day long at Coconuts, and he just loved it. And he gave me this glass. We became friends in a short period of time. It was and his wife is super nice. His grandkids were super polite. Just a real fine human being.
That's awesome.
And very supportive of all the craft breweries in Costa Rica. And it didn't matter that I was a gringo or that a lot of the breweries were run by gringos. He just wanted to see good beer in Costa Rica. He was just a super nice guy.
Hey, Dimitri, are you on your phone or how are you absorbing the show? Are you literally in an airport right now?
No pressure, Dimitri. We're all just waiting for you to type something.
Right. His flight's been called. He's probably standing in the jetway.
Laptop? Hey, man, do you want to join us?
We could do an after party with Dimitri.
Oh, I can't do an after party tonight, but we can pull him in here for a few minutes.
He can't. He's home getting ready for a trial.
Oh.
I know you probably can't talk about it or don't want to talk about it. It's probably the last thing you want to do. Get to spend next week you're in Eastern Kentucky.
Nice.
Wait, what's the sure? Do you want? I'm getting mixed messages, Dimitri. Do you want to hang out for a little bit? We'll send you a link.
Just a few minutes. I can't do an after party tonight either, but
He says, "Tell me how."
I'm going to send you an email on Gmail.
Check your Gmail and just click the link and all that other stuff.
That was a fun episode.
That was fun.
I was
had a good time.
I was a little worried about it. But John, you went uber nerd, and that was awesome.
I was in my element.
Once we're sure Dimitri can join, we should turn off the live thing.
Yeah, I can probably do that now.
Okay. Check your email, Dimitri.